U.S. stock futures fell this morning after Walmart cut its profit forecast, citing rising food inflation. This also comes as many shoppers continue to pull back on retail spending. Well, this week, big tech companies will report quarterly results. Investors at Meta, Alphabet, Microsoft, Apple, and Amazon are hurting this year after surging inflation, rising interest rates, and recession fears affect the sector. In a bipartisan effort, the Senate is looking to push through funding to help domestic semiconductor manufacturing. The CHIPS Act looks to boost competitiveness with China. Lawmakers are expected to hold a final vote on the measure later today or tomorrow. For more on this, let's bring in Rick Newman. He's an author and senior columnist at Yahoo Finance. Good to see you this morning. Thanks for joining us. First and foremost, remind us of what the CHIPS Act is. It has a much longer name, but we're going to say the CHIPS Act. It's very easy to say that, right?
Yes, thank you for saving me that mouthful of words. The CHIPS Act is a package of basically subsidies for the semiconductor industry. This would be some subsidies for building semiconductor factories in the United States, maintaining them or updating them. And then there is some money in there for technology research that would lead to improvement of semiconductors. All told, this is about $52 billion for building more semiconductor factories here in the United States.
And is this different from what was proposed in last year's innovation and competitiveness bill? Because I remember, hearing the stories and the concern about relying on, other countries for this. What is the difference between what we're talking about now and what we were talking about last year?
Yeah, there are a lot of different moving parts here, so this is confusing. So there are other bills that would be broader. They would offer more support for new technology innovation here in the United States. The CHIPS Act is part of those broader bills. So this has been carved out, if you will, because Congress views this as an urgent priority right now. I mean, microchips, semiconductors. They're in appliances, they're in cars, they're in military hardware, weapons, satellites. And we know from the semiconductor shortage that emerged from the COVID pandemic how important these really are. I mean, there have not been enough cars available, for instance, mainly because of chip shortages. And these are crucial to not just economic competitiveness as a country, but also to national security. So this is why Democrats and Republicans seem to be coming together on this, because it's necessary, they say, for economic competitiveness. And then when you throw in that this is also a national security priority, that is what is probably going to get this bill over the finish line with some Democrat and Republican support.
When you talk about this sort of being a bipartisan issue and a very important one because of the security concerns, you have people like Bernie Sanders and Pat Toomey calling this, though, a corporate failure. What is their argument when you hear that?
Yeah, they call it corporate welfare, and they're not wrong about that. This is kind of complicated, but this is a subsidy for one particular industry. And, through the last 40, 50 years, I mean, the Congress has mostly avoided subsidies that go to one specific industry. We have things like tax cuts, which basically help all businesses in the economy. They are saying we don't need to be putting taxpayer dollars toward these companies that are otherwise profitable. And, this is kind of uncomfortable. Now, the reason that we've got a lot of Democrats and Republicans coming together is that China is putting massive amounts of government aid toward building new semiconductor plants, and they want to dominate this industry globally. The United States has lost market share in semiconductors. It used to be about 40% of the global market back in 1990. It's down to about 12% now, and will probably go well below 12% if current trends continue. So the argument for this type of federal aid is that this is just an area where the United States has to remain competitive. And even if we don't like corporate welfare, if you prefer that word, this is one where perhaps you could say national security and just national priorities trump the discomfort that it causes by subsidizing one industry with taxpayer dollars.
All right. We will see what happens. Of course, it might be some time even before we see the results of that if the legislation passes.
Right.
Rick Newman, thank you.
See ya. Thanks.